Everyone, I'm Susan Birch and welcome to another Health Detective podcast. Today I'm answering a question from someone who, Marama, who emailed this in to me. She wanted to know why obesity makes COVID worse. She also said that losing weight is really hard, especially when you love your kai and everyone around you is eating the same kind of food. And she mentioned that the cost of food is a struggle for many families making health choices. So these are excellent questions, and thanks, Marama, for asking those. So let's start with what we know about obesity, diabetes, and COVID. Without going too deep into the science, these are what we call comorbidities for severe COVID. So that means that if you catch COVID and you are overweight and obese, or you've got diabetes, it will potentially be a lot worse. And I'll put some links to studies in the show notes for anyone who wants to do their own reading and learn more about this. But essentially what happens is the COVID virus attaches to receptors in the fat cells, and the more fat cells you have, the more infected you become with the virus. And then this sets off this cascade of immune responses that leads you becoming seriously sick. And diabetes is similar. Your risk of becoming infected increases when you've got diabetes, but also COVID then will make your diabetes substantially worse. So, it's a double-edged sword, really. And we can see when we look at the research of who gets sick or dies from COVID, it's the frail elderly, and then those with obesity and type 2 diabetes. So I think it's well worth, really trying to reverse those if you're suffering from them. There was a recent paper published that showed the strongest risk factors for death from COVID in any one country. So this is looking at a country as a whole, was the obesity levels in the country, the average age of the population, and the income disparity. And that, of course, plays a huge role in the obesity epidemic as well. And the study showed that for each 1% increase in obesity resulted in a 12% increase in COVID deaths. So it's not to be taken lightly. And this is the reason I began the Healthy New Zealand program in March 2020. It was to highlight these dangers. We didn't have vaccinations then, and the best chance we had of avoiding becoming seriously ill with this virus was to address our increasing rates of obesity and type 2 diabetes. And in my opinion, this is a worse pandemic than COVID. And I know lots of people probably won't like me saying that, but this has a devastating impact on lives every single day, and particularly for the loss of potential for the young people in this country. So when I talk about this, most people just shrug or think it applies to someone else and not them. I don't know how many emails I've sent to the Prime Minister, the politicians, and media suggesting that this should be talked about openly. Just imagine if Jacinda encouraged all of us to get healthier during her daily briefings. I don't know why this hasn't been part of our COVID response information. And I really believe Jacinda, with her power and, huge following, could have made a real difference to the lives and health of New Zealand. And I'm still hopeful that this will become part of our COVID response strategy. Marama, the second part of your question is much harder to address. People do find it really hard to lose weight. And I work with people every day who have been trying to lose weight, and they lose weight and they regain weight. And it's particularly hard when we enjoy food that helps relieve all the stresses and tension we feel in our lives. And it gives us some comfort. And, I'm not immune from that either. I suffer I have the same feelings and same emotions. And you know, it's really easy to fall into that food trap. But I know from more than 30 years of working in this field with people that it's not because people don't know what to eat. When I run seminars, my first question is always, what would you eat if you wanted to get sick? And everybody knows the answer. Everybody lists the foods that we know are contributing to obesity, type 2 diabetes, autoimmune conditions, cancers, and heart disease. And these are the foods that people are eating most days, or many people are eating these foods each day. So these include soft drinks, processed foods, and alcohol. Now we can go off and argue about what's the best diet. Should we be low carb or vegan or carnivore or keto? And we can debate about how many carbs and fats and proteins we should be eating. But that's not the problem. If we're eating real food, those are just minor technical details. The problem is that we're not eating real food. We're eating processed food that our body doesn't even recognize as food. And I can only passionately implore everybody to just, you know, do your best. Just try and eliminate some of that. Work together as family and whānau and community groups, and just really try to make some changes in how much of that food you are consuming. The next question is, why do we keep eating these foods when we do know how much damage they do to our health? And this comes back to a whole self-worth, self-belief process. And I think one of the reasons is because many people don't think that they're worthy enough to make the effort to take care of themselves. And I know that's a huge statement to make, but I've been working with people in this space for more than 30 years. And I know when we get down to looking at self-worth, that's where we find the biggest gains, because all of a sudden people find their lives haven't changed, the stresses haven't changed, but how they regard themselves changes, and then they're able to keep making better choices for themselves rather than going, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm going to eat this because it makes me feel better right now. And then, of course, you get into that vicious cycle. You have to deal with the guilt and the shame you feel afterwards. And then you trigger some more stress, and then you eat some more, and it just goes on and on. So I encourage you this year, if your New Year's resolution is going to be to lose weight and get healthy, start with identifying why you need to take care of your body, or why you don't take care of your body, perhaps, when it's the most important thing that you want to do. And really go and have a look at the thoughts and feelings that you have, and how you possibly think, I shouldn't eat that, but then you go, oh, well, I want it. And your brain's telling you it'll make you feel good. And then you eat it. And then you go, oh, why did I eat that? I'm such a failure. And the cycle keeps going on. So thanks, Marama, for your question. It's a really important question. I really believe that the best thing we can do in New Zealand is reduce our overweight and obesity levels. That will really help us with COVID, but it will also help us with all the other aspects of our lives. And I also appreciate just how hard it is to do. I love answering your questions, so please send them in if you have any. If you enjoyed this video, podcast, however you get this, please hit the subscribe button, like and share. You can find some links to my free resources in the show notes. I've got a lot of free resources on my website. including a health and wellbeing planner, which has now been updated for 2022. So please feel free to download that. Thanks, everyone. Wishing everybody an absolutely amazing Christmas. And, you know, let's hope we all have a wonderful 2022. And I'll see you again in the new year. Thank you.